Hello, horror fan, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 11th episode of Murders with Mertens. This is a podcast about horror, and I am your host, Joe. Horror musicals, cosmic horror, the supernatural, sci-fi horror, body horror, the horror adjacent, thrillers, the psychologically terrifying, scary films in general. Each episode I sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so that we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. Viewers, thank you for tuning in to this fledgling podcast. You can provide some much needed support with this little endeavor by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, dropping a comment below to keep the conversation going, and sharing an episode with someone you know who loves that particular film. It's all greatly appreciated. But enough of all the rigmarole. We need to introduce today's guest, Lee Polero. How the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, doing great. Got
Good.
my beer and I'm ready to go.
Nice. Lee, for those who don't know, who the hell are you?
I am Lee Polero. I am a kind of funny best friend. My day job, I do data analysis, reporting specialist, whatnot. But I'm also an actor in LA. And so is my wife. We have a movie out on Amazon/Tubi, and really that's all you need to know about me. I rarely tweet, but I'm on Twitter.
Yeah. Occasional interactions there, but more often than not, it's one of Mark's Zoom calls where we seem to be able to catch up.
Yep.
Um, yep. Gotta definitely shout out Mark for helping kick my ass into getting this thing going. So
Yeah.
kudos to him. Um, so tonight's film is one that you brought to the table, one of your faves, and one that I
hmm
can't recall the last time I had seen, but it was out in my freshman year of high school. So, yeah, it's been a
Wow.
while. We are, of course, talking about 93's stop motion musical classic, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Directed by Henry Selick and based on a story slash poem by Tim Burton with music and lyrics by Danny Elfman. The whole team basically had one assignment: make this feel like Tim Burton. Uh, Again, like I said, it was released in my freshman year of high school, and we were all just obsessed with this film at the time. Uh,
Yeah.
Lee, what's your history with the film?
And that's the thing. I don't remember my first time watching it. I got obsessed with it in high school as well, but it was years after it came out. It's one of my favorite movies. One of my top two favorite movies. I have Zero Tattoo.
Oh, nice.
That's actually pretty recent. Went ahead and wore my Zelda Nightmare Before Christmas shirt for this. But yeah, I got obsessed with it in high school because that's when I really got into theater and stuff. And what this movie really means to me, and what it means to a lot of people who watch it and like have sort of an obsession with it, is this isn't scary, but it's probably a teenager's first like scary movie to see. And it's also the first movie to see that shows that it is okay to be interested in different things. Be interested in like the macabre, the weird, the spooky, and that's okay. You can still have fun with it. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean you're weird, or doesn't mean that you're like a serial killer or anything like that. You just have this fledgling instinct to go, you know what? I like those crooked buildings. I like
Mhm.
everything I'm seeing here. It's weird. The vampires, they speak to me, Zero speaks to me. He's a ghost dog. I love it, like so many different cool designs and ideas. So I think, yeah, in high school is when I really got obsessed with it because I was in theater, was just doing like random theater stuff. Not really a jock or anything like that. Like the only sports I did was cross country, so it was really just running. And it just stuck out to me.
Yeah, I feel like this film is very much a gateway drug to horror for a lot of kids and teenagers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Basically, the people that I hung out with and marching band and other classes at the time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this was our jam. Very very much. I think we all came off of the high of other Tim Burton properties from shortly before this. I know one of the reasons that he had very very little involvement with the film was that he was busy doing Batman Returns at the
Yeah.
time, which is a lot of people's favorite Batman. I don't know. I think it's just a touch behind 89 for me, but I still do very much appreciate Batman Returns. And yeah, between that and Beetlejuice and all these fun films that, yeah, just very much were, again, kind of gateway drugs to the horror genre. Um,
100%.
yeah,
And
for a kid growing up in the 80s, I've mentioned this before, just primetime television, you would get the most bizarre, like, "Oh, why are they airing this now? Ads for horror properties. And it was just a very strange experience growing up. I feel like you don't necessarily see that now, but
yeah,
I think that's something that piqued my interest as a kid. And then, when you're, you know, probably late grade school, creeping into junior high or so,
mhm,
it's, of course, all right, kids are all getting together for like a sleepover or whatever. What horror film are we renting? Because of course we need to creep each other out, right?
right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, all those things, and then just the fun of this film. Um, yeah,
And yeah, it's a film I watch every year at Christmas time. It's just tradition, and then if I want to watch it before that, I just watch it before it because why not?
yeah,
But yeah, and
absolutely.
it definitely is like the introduction to the Tim Burton world, and you really get because later on you watch Batman and Batman Returns, also creepy with Penguin just biting people's noses off, the
Oh
weird
yeah.
goo. I watched Edward Scissorhands. That terrified me as a kid when Edward starts snipping off the kid's face and stuff. And but it's still like interesting. And
Hmm.
yeah, this is really like that's why I chose this because it's not a scary movie, but it's consistently been one of my favorite movies for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it has Chris Sarandon in it, who's in my other favorite movie, Princess Bride. So, no connection there.
There you go. I saw some little snippet somewhere that he would be very, very interested in some type of a sequel property here if they
Yeah,
really wanted to do it. I know there's video games that kind of continue things on and so on,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean that'd be cool. I'm sure they could get some Danny Elfman involvement if they
Oh, yeah,
asked. I'm sure he would be down. But
yeah.
yeah, why don't we jump in here?
Sure.
The first thing I gotta talk about is the whole narrator whose name I couldn't find for some reason versus
It
Patrick Stewart on the soundtrack.
it
Uh,
is Ed Ivory, the guy who did Santa Claus.
okay,
They do not
okay,
credit him as the narrator, but it
that's
is him,
weird.
Santa Claus. And
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart is the narrator for the soundtrack, like you said, and there's also like an epilogue
Hmm.
that's not in the movie. There's also another soundtrack called Nightmare Revisited where bands did covers
Hmm.
of every single song, including the orchestral songs. And that has Danny Elfman doing the beginning narration and the ending narration instead of Patrick Stewart.
That one I have not heard. I've heard some of the others that are part of that, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and for whatever reason, just uh, the gentleman that portrayed Santa Claus there, it just didn't do it for me, and I can't remember. I have like this Mandela effect thing going on. What was it that I actually experienced in the theater the first time around?
Hmm.
Because I'm sure I bought the soundtrack shortly after seeing the film. Because why
Yeah.
wouldn't I have, right?
Yeah.
And and I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure it was it was Santa Claus, but I don't know. Maybe not. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't, to me, it seems a little wooden and stilted right before they dive into the doorway to Halloween
Yeah.
Town, and that's just a
Is I mean, honestly, it's probably one of those like, hey, we're not using the Patrick Stewart one. Can you just do something quick?
yeah, because there's plenty of people that are part of the cast that do many
Yeah.
many roles. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that wouldn't be shocking. But yeah,
No.
we jump right into this is Halloween.
This Halloween
Um,
instant bop, all the songs are great. Like
mhm.
they're great. They're all composed by Danny Elfman. And if you're a fan of Oingo Boingo, which I am as well, you know like he's great at making music.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and this is one of those things where again, it's been many years since I've seen this. At least 10, 15 years. And just immediately like the lyrics are coming back and you find yourself just kind of humming along or singing along just a little bit in
Yeah.
parts of it, and it's a ton of fun. I love all the little the character introductions throughout this thing. Um, like the vampire voices get me
Hmm.
big time. I
Every
really love those, and
every time.
you know the fact that the mayor is a two-faced politician, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love the mayor. But the one line that gets me the most in this song is referring to human children by monsters as tender lumplings. That's something that's always stuck out to me and has always been incredibly creepy. I know we talk about how it's not a particularly scary film or anything, but there's parts of it that, you know, uh, yeah, they just have that little creep factor that, you know,
Yeah.
it
And
gets me.
it's the first time that you really, yeah, all the characters are so unique and different, and you get the clown with the tearaway face, you get the guy
Mhm.
with the uh, fingers like snakes, you know, and
Yeah.
then like all those creepy like imagery things that
Hmm.
growing up you have as like nightmares, but in reality here. And one
Yeah.
thing to note about Halloween Town itself is that they made it so there's no like properly level like buildings or angles.
Oh, yeah.
It's all crooked.
Yep, it's all over the place, and
Yeah.
you know, as Tim Burton as you can possibly get.
Yes.
Yeah, I also love the creature with the fingers like snakes. Of course, they look like the sandworms from Saturn, and that comes back just over and over in a lot of Tim Burton stuff. But
Yep.
many times in this film, love it.
Yeah.
So yes, they finish up their Halloween celebration and they're giving kudos to Jack, and um, we get the introduction of Dr. Finkelstein, who
Yeah.
is one of my favorite characters in this film. He's portrayed by William Hickey, who is an absolute G. He, you know, most people are going to know him from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but he also plays Don Pritzi in Pritzi's Honor, and you know, many other excellent films. I love his voice, and he's a ton of fun. Uh,
Yeah.
who are some of your favorites other than, you know, say the clown and the
I mean, so many of them, yeah. The weird clown, not clown, but like it's like the bird looking creature that has like this the mouth that's completely separated and the small part on top, the big part on bottom. He makes the bat hat, the rat hat, and then Jack says to make it the bat hat. That guy, I love
yeah.
him. Jack, obviously. Zero is my number one, obviously. Oogie Boogie, I love Oogie Boogie's song. That's got to be my favorite song in it.
Yep, yeah, and you get that little hint in This Is Halloween of the
Yeah,
shadow on the moon being Oogie Boogie.
yeah,
There's a minor amount of debate as to whether that's actually him. It's him. Come on, let's be
yeah.
fair.
It's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, so good.
Yeah. So Jack does his little sneak away because, you know, he's kind of done with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he
His
goes by
old
the
hat.
yeah, he goes by the Jazz Trio, which I can't get enough of. I
They're
watched this
also
film
good ones.
twice in the past week, and yeah, the head that's inside the base is based on Danny Elfman, and
Yeah,
yeah, they're fun.
yeah.
Uh,
Just the way the main guy of the band is like, "Thanks, Bone Daddy." Like
mm-hmm,
awesome. This his voice is so unique.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Uh, and we quickly move right into Jack's lament.
Yep. And that's the thing about this movie is that they made the songs first, really, and then kind of moved the script along with
That makes
it.
sense.
Yeah.
It definitely feels that way. Um, so it's
Jack
based.
Clement being a great song for Jack itself, and also just a great song overall. And some of my favorite lyrics of "To a guy in Kentucky, I'm Mr. Unlucky," and since I'm dead, I can take off my head to recite Shakespearean quotation. It's like it's so eloquent.
Hmm. Yeah, and you basically have Sally uh, stalking him through the cemetery as he's singing.
Hmm.
It, it's there's a little conversation that I read about how this is basically the version of a Disney Princess I Want style song. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, that makes sense. This is Jack pouring his heart out about, you know, yeah, I'm all these things, but it just doesn't do anything for me anymore. And I need something new. I need that spark in life.
Need a challenge to really push
Yeah.
yourself forward. And
Hmm.
if you're already at the top of your game, then and
Yeah.
it's boring to you, like it's not even you don't even have to try.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be
There's
satisfied.
a lyric just about that, how he doesn't even have to try about any of this.
Yep.
It's just this all comes to him and it's like
Yep.
nothing. Um, and, he just kind of walks off into the woods and, oh, well, that's of course after we are introduced to Zero.
Of course.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, who just kind of floats around and does his thing throughout all of this. And yes, we must
So
protect
good.
Zero at all costs. He's the
Yeah.
best. He's a good boy. And the hill, of course, the iconic hill from the
Yep.
poster, the T-shirt, the everything. I
Everything.
yeah, just love how it kind of just unfurls and just there's so many little bits and pieces of this. I'm sure are either from the poem or were specific things that Burton asked for, but I feel like there's probably a good number of bits and pieces that again, the mission was make this feel like Tim Burton. He's going to be here like half a dozen times throughout the 3 years that we're making this film.
Yep.
But but I'm curious which bits and pieces were created by others, and we just will
Yeah.
never know. Um,
Because the director Henry Selick also moved on to do like Coraline and stuff like that.
mhm.
So it's not like it's not his style at all. It is definitely still his style as
Oh yeah.
well because he has a very dark style. And I love Halloween Town and subsequently Christmas Land, because there are these things that just like happen, like the hill that just unravels. It's not like it zooms in on the hill, goes, look at this hill. It just
Hmm.
happens. Like this world is already so established. Things just happen. They're not new to them. It's just happenstance and normal for them.
Yeah.
But we're watching and like going, oh, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, but it's an excellent point that all of this is either old hat or just normal or whatever to all of these characters.
Mhm.
It's very very lived in.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Let's see. I think we cut back now to Doctor F picking up Sally and
Yeah.
taking her home again. I guess it hasn't been brought up yet that she is essentially his creation. She is this sort of ragdoll Frankenstein's monster type of
Yeah.
thing, and yeah, he is very controlling.
Yes.
So
Locks her
he
up.
locks her up. Yeah, and I, I still think though that he's definitely more of an overprotective father, not necessarily in a good way, but more so than
Yeah.
just a horrible captor. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And you see that like at the end with the
yeah.
new one, which is more of a bride looking
Hmm.
creature rather than Sally, which is just like a daughter, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Then we come back to Jack, and he has entered this sort of Glastonbury Grove of holidays, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Basically there is something that's associated with each holiday that sort of serves as a staircase going up to the door. You
Yeah.
have this box of candy for Valentine's Day and these toadstools for St. Patrick's Day
Yeah.
and so on and so forth, and of course presents leading up to the Christmas door.
Yeah.
um Now I definitely remember from, this is damn near 30 years ago now, but when it was like a major technical achievement that Jack reaching out for the doorknob and there not being the reflection of the camera filming the
Yeah.
stop motion, how they were able to make this all happen was a very, very big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember hearing that also, like, it's the hardest shot in the movie because it had to be reflective, and you had to have the trees in the background and actually
mhm.
have stuff in the background going on and not see the camera. Very reminiscent of, was it Contact? With, she's running towards the mirror, and then it turns out you're in the reflection.
Mhm. Yeah, yep, that makes sense. Um Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of other things in this film that were pretty big achievements for the time, but
I mean, that's the other thing. Like this film is stop motion animation, which takes forever to do, and as like hundreds of heads for Jack, like everything had to be painstakingly made and just one shot at a time. Is
yeah,
I
they
have
had to have all sorts of
so much
backups
respect.
for all the the you want to call them puppets or dolls or whatever.
Right.
But for those pieces, in addition to the lighting, because if a light were to go out in the middle of, snapping all these different photos of each
Mhm.
little, frame, it could completely ruin everything and you'd never know until you were trying to assemble it all. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, 3 years, man.
that's
That's
crazy.
for an hour, 20-minute movie or whatever this is. Um, that's a lot. And there's probably a good reason why you don't see a lot of feature length stop motion because it is incredibly labor intensive, but
Yeah,
pulled off incredibly well. Um, so he reaches for the doorknob and is sucked into Christmas Town, and we get What's This?
what's this? One of the
Yeah.
most popular songs on it. Yeah, yeah, and I
Mm
also like when he goes in, he doesn't like jump in or anything like that. He gets pulled in
hmm. Mm
by basically the Christmas spirit through snow. Like it's not like he was planning on going there. It's more like a fate type thing.
hmm. Mm hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. And all of a sudden he's there and it's all
Right?
new, it's all amazing to him, and
Yep.
we definitely get that in song. um and I, just like you were mentioning with Halloween Town, we have a very different style of architecture, a very different atmosphere. The way that the people that are there in this town have a very very different look. It's basically elves and penguins, and that's about it. But
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, uh, you have a terrifying skeleton man stalking
Just,
through this happy
just run
little place.
around. Yeah, smelling cakes and pies,
Mm-hmm.
looking in people's, breaking into people's homes. Really watching them sleep, loving it, and all elves are the most clueless creatures of all time. They have no idea what's happening. They don't see
Yeah,
anything wrong.
yeah. They miss him where he. I mean, he's very tall.
Yeah.
he's a
Yes.
he's a big
Very
man.
tall.
And then there's that one elf that snaps awake after he darts away from his bed, and he looks
Yeah.
absolutely terrified. It's probably the scariest thing that's ever happened in this creature's life.
It's
But
probably the only scary thing to have happened to him. Like, do
probably,
you think do
yeah,
you think it's anything scary in this world at all that's ever
yeah.
frightened any of these
Oh no,
elves?
we're running late on a shipment of toys. Whatever
Yeah.
shall we do? Yeah, something like that. That could be.
Yeah.
Um, so Jack, finally sees the name of the town, and the wheels start turning, and we cut back to Halloween Town, and the mayor is having an absolute freak out because it's the day after Halloween, and it's time to discuss plans for the next Halloween, and oh my God, we can't find Jack, and so he's got everybody and their brother out looking for him, and you got to imagine that all these little random places that they mentioned they searched, they have to be from the poem or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
behind one of the vampires says behind the Cyclops eye, and I just love the way right after he goes, "I did."
mhm. But he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
I
and
love the vampires. Love the
mhm,
vampires.
they're great. And then the Black Cat air raid siren,
Yeah,
which I seem to remember from like the teaser for this film way back in the day. But
that sounds accurate.
yeah,
Like that'd be something just like showcase what is happening because like the mummy kid
hmm,
doing that. Yeah,
yeah, I loved like the little trio of kids too. They're great.
yeah.
The
Oh yeah,
corpse child in particular, he's fun.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think they should have had a song about poisoning Dr. Finkelstein, um, because it seems to come up a lot, and that
I
could have
think
been fun.
there's something. The one like miss about this movie is that they should have used Sally a lot more than they did, especially because it's Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
You can't. there's no way to underutilize Catherine O'Hara or to overutilize. You can only underutilize her because she is so good in everything. So good.
Oh yeah.
And can always use more.
Yep. Yep. She is tons of fun, and luckily does a couple of voices in this thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, she definitely poisons him again, so
Yep.
that she can sneak out. And let's see. I can't quite
Another thing about that, yeah, the frog's breath. Putting the little frog in a jar and just breathing into
to
the
cover up
soup.
the nightshade, and then
Yep.
there's
The
too much of
worm's
the
wort.
frog's breath, so worms wort. Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
good.
that's fun. I love how she's like slightly poisoned by it as well because she got a little too much in her system.
Yeah.
And the camera just kind of does its little tilt and everything with that. I like that quite a bit. Um, and then the thing that I always remember from the next little bit is the corpse child again, and he's on a tether. And I don't know if you've ever experienced parents that have to have their kids tethered to them because they're going to run all over the place. But instead of it being attached to his wrist or something like that, it's around his neck like it's a leash,
Yeah.
which, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right. And I always
Yeah.
think back to the old Mike Myers, Nicole Kidman skit on Saturday Night Live of Philip the Hyper Hypo, where he's this kid who's wearing like a hockey helmet and he is tethered to the jungle gym, and he ends up eating some sugar and racing off down the street with this jungle gym toad behind him. But yeah, that's a deep cut. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Um,
All good. Get
oh
the
yeah.
deepest cuts.
um, but yeah, all of a sudden they hear Zero barking, and here comes Jack on this snowmobile type thing.
He's way too big for.
Yeah, yeah, his knees are up by his head and everything. Yeah, and we get the town meeting song,
Yeah.
where
Love it.
yeah, let's talk about all these wonderful things that are Christmas. But of course, the denizens of Halloween Town, they always have to put
Yeah.
their spooky spin on it. Um,
Yeah. They don't understand anything. It's like, okay, cool. There's a box and there's something in it. Is there a head in it? I don't get it. Is
what's
it
the point? Yeah.
Yeah. What are you trying to say here? And I
Mm-hmm.
love it how they just don't understand. And this is one of those songs on the Nightmare Revisited soundtrack, which is one of the covers. Polyphonic Spree does a cover of this song. It's like 8.5 minutes long, and it feels like a Pink Floyd version of this song. It's awesome.
I like it. That works. Um, so then we start getting into Jack just sort of obsessing over Christmas, and
Mhm.
he's in bed and he's got this giant stack of books next to him, and I noticed for the very first time one of these books that's on top of him on the blanket is Bobo Gets a Fire Truck.
I don't
Okay.
know that reference,
Yeah, I don't
but
either. It's
it means
I'm
something.
it means something to somebody, I'm sure. But he's reading all the classics, and he finally gets the swell idea. I gotta do more than just read. I gotta do my own research here,
Yeah,
and then I think this is where he just the next day goes to Dr. Finkelstein, and he needs his
yeah.
equipment, and of course the doc is hungover from being poisoned,
Hmm.
and I just again love his voice, love
Yeah.
that character. And he's very very supportive of Jack because of course curiosity killed the cat.
Yep. I
I
know.
know.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good because
Yeah.
obviously everybody uses that as a negative connotation, and in
Mm-hmm.
this world, it's not.
Yep, yep, they're all good with that. And then he's got his chemistry set, and he's using the microscope to take a look at probably a holly berry or something like that, and breaks the
Yeah.
slide. And
And there's so many things like in this formula, the chestnuts over an open fire as like an actual division thing, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like trying to scientifically understand Christmas
Yep. And then
because
he finally gets this one little bit where he crushes up an ornament and throws it into his flask there, and he gets this reaction of this glowing, and Sally sees it from across the way in her cell, and okay, well she decides, all right, time to break out, go see Jack, and she makes him a little picnic basket of
Yeah.
various things. Um, I love the shot of her flinging herself to the ground,
Yeah,
and
and
you
just
see the
breaking on
jazz trio
impact.
just kind of cringe when it happens. And she's fine because she's a rag doll. She's just like you said, broken apart. She has to
Yeah.
sew herself back together. Um,
It's
and
always it's stuff like that that just like makes this like a real world rather than like I don't know, something fantastical. Like it is fantastical, but it's real to them, and that's what I
Mhm.
love about shows and movies like this, where the world itself can be absolutely insane. But as long as the characters are grounded within it,
Yeah,
I believe it.
as long as it makes sense to them and
Yeah,
it's not them reacting like it's, fantastical, then yeah,
yeah,
that works for me. The jazz trios, they swell as Sally walks past, and she delivers her basket to Jack, and he gives her a little wave, and then he looks back out again, and she's gone. Well, she's run away because she's a little shy. And this is where she gets her vision. She picks a flower to, pick the petals off and think fondly of Jack. Well, at first it turns into a Christmas tree, and then it
hmm
bursts into flames. And okay, not great.
ominous, very
Yes,
ominous.
I love that she is somebody who gets visions.
Yeah,
Sure, cool. That's
yeah,
that's fun.
yeah.
It's not really described or anything like that, but yeah, it
It's also not
works.
like, but it's not against the world at all.
No.
It just is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we move on to another great song, Jack's Obsession.
Yep.
Um,
The one song in the Nightmare Revisited soundtrack that is very bad, and I will always skip it.
that's a
Every single
shame.
song on the soundtrack is either decent to great. This is the one song it is. I don't know who this band is, but they are not good, and I always pass it.
That's a horrible
So it's not,
shame. It's
yeah,
it's
because it's a
rare to
good
find.
song.
Yeah, and it's rare to find a perfect album because I have
Mm.
this problem. It's like, oh, what's your favorite Beatles album? Well, Revolver, if they took off Yellow Submarine, because I would be
Oh,
so down with that album if it did not have that one song on it. It just it's a
that's
little
a
bit of
hot
a
take
hot
right
take.
there.
Yeah, yeah. But otherwise it's a bitchin' album. Sorry. But Jack just gets more and more obsessed to the point where he's, destroying his Christmas tree, and you've got the ornaments breaking on the ground and scattering around Zero, and Zero does seem a little
Very
concerned.
concerned. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, and basically wrapping an electric chair with some Christmas lights, and then
Again, cool visual
mhm.
combining the two, and them exploding because he's obviously way too deep in right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like his own little premonition there that he fails to see because again,
Yes.
super obsessed.
Mhm.
Um, so he's gonna start handing out assignments because they're gonna do their own Christmas this year. And here's where we get the introduction of Lock, Shock, and Barrel. They are so much
Great, the best trick or treaters
fun.
for
Mm-hmm.
of Halloween Town, which
Yes.
is great because it confirms that there are trick or treaters outside of the kids trick or treating in the real world on Earth, that they're the ones that are doing the tricks more than the treats.
Yes, they are very much trickster characters as well. Yeah, you have Paul Rubens and Catherine
Mhm.
O'Hara and
And Danny Elfman was the third one.
yes, yep, there we go. Um, yes, oh, they're fun, and we move right into Kidnap the Sandy Claus.
Yep.
Also great that they continually refer to Santa Claus as Sandy Claus, and they're very
Yeah.
confused by this because they're uh, they're picturing this monstrous character with almost like a
Giant claws
lobster,
and
right? Yeah.
yeah,
um
yeah.
except not so much. But yeah, just singing about all the ways they're gonna hack Santa Claus into bits and
Mhm.
ultimately
Blow them
just,
up.
yep, turn him over to Oogie Boogie because that's who they really work for, even though Jack made them promise to leave him out of it, but fingers were crossed behind their backs there.
Yep.
um but yeah, this has always been a fun one to me. That poor roach or whatever it was that's inside their home that they just
So like,
torture the hell out of throughout the song.
yeah, and it being boiled and like looking all green and stuff, and then finally being thrown down the chute, and Oogie Boogie just sucks it in, and yeah, that poor little bug, it's gone.
Yeah, but he's got to get them from somewhere, of course.
Yep.
Um, so then we're back to the basically the handing out of assignments, and Sally gets hers, but she really doesn't want to talk about it. She more so wants to talk about the horrible premonition that she's had, and
Yeah, makes
Jack.
sense.
Yeah, she's a little concernicus here. She mentions about her horrible vision, and Jack totally does not get what she's
Yeah,
actually saying. It's more like her saying that she has bad eyesight. I also like
yeah,
his line of uh no, no, this is so simple. You see, this part is red, the trim is white. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you get a bit later on with Santa Claus being like, "Listen to her." It really just listen to the woman who's saying, "Do not do this. It is a terrible idea." Not the people who are all
Yes.
just yes men.
Yes. This is very important. And this is where we get Lock, Shock, and Barrel returning with
Mm-hmm.
their captive. Unfortunately, it's the Easter Bunny.
Yep.
And I forget the character. Is it the Behemoth? Is he the one with
Behemoth
the
with the
axe in his head? Yeah.
axe in his head. Yeah, yeah, just go
Bunny.
bunny.
Yes. And of course, EB is sufficiently frightened,
Yes.
dives back into the sack, which, of course, is like a trick or treater's, you know, candy
Yep.
sack or something like that.
Exactly.
Because, I suppose it's hard to put a man sized bunny into a giant plastic pumpkin. So, I makes sense.
And I'm
Um,
hoping that they brought the bunny back to Easterland and not to Oogie Boogie. There's nothing that set that shows that would be to Oogie Boogie, but just making sure.
yeah, because Jack made them promise that they were going to take
Mm.
him home first, but we all
Yeah.
know how they are with their promises.
Yep.
Um, so now we have Finks working on his bride. Um, he has
Going through different heads to
uh-huh,
try to get the perfect
uh-huh.
one.
Yep, and
Very,
it's only when
very
he's making
Frankenstein.
the oh yeah, it's only when he's making the skeletal reindeer that he does find a skull that works for him.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
another little throwaway bit with Igor. This is during Making Christmas, but when Igor comes in, just goes, "Master, the plans." Never seen this character before. Never see him again. He has one line. Great one line.
Yeah, I think we do see him later, but it's not a speaking part at all.
Yeah,
But I love how he's throwing a dog biscuit, and
it's so
it's
good.
good. It's good. And like you said, we move into Making Christmas, which is one of my favorite songs in this whole thing.
Hmm.
Um, I love how evil they all are with their making Christmas. Yes, it's tons of fun.
And it's exactly getting the toys and presents that you would imagine, like three, like playing a game of telephone and three people down, what a duck is or what a cat is, and you
Sure.
have no concept of what it is like originally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, altogether that and this with all our tricks we're making Christmas time. Yes.
Hmm.
Always one of my favorite lines from this. And then the reanimated reindeer. I I, I always love how their little mouths just kind of hang open a little bit like
Hmm.
that. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I feel like this was major inspiration for Larry Fessenden's film Wendigo.
Oh
Um,
no, I was
oh,
in that.
it's a very indie horror film. He's kind of a horror icon, but yeah, it's from the early 2000s, and you get this, Wendigo in the film, who's basically just made up of skeletal deer remains, and there's
Okay,
just
yeah,
something about the mouth hanging open just a
yeah,
little bit like that that always makes me think of this. Um, and then we get the capture of Sandy Claus.
yep.
Um, Yeah, he's going through his list at home and he's like, nice, nice, nice,
No.
naughty.
Gotta emphasize the naughty ones.
Uh-huh.
He's like,
There are
oh, this
hardly
guy.
any naughty children this year. No, little
Just you
does he
wait.
know.
Just you wait.
Yeah, yeah. So they bag him and take him back to Halloween Town, and he's got all the loose candy from the sack stuck in his soup catcher.
Mhm.
And well, let's go make him comfortable. It sounds, like such a hostage taker type of line to
Yeah.
his henchmen, but
Yeah. Not knowing. Probably could have, if he had thought like 2 seconds more, he probably could have figured it out pretty quickly on. I also like how Jack takes Santa Claus's hat because that's the one thing he was missing,
yep,
and that's what
yep.
completed the suit, completed it.
He finally gets it, and just I don't even know if he thanks him or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
you're gonna take a vacation. It's all
Mhm.
good.
Don't worry
It's
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we got you.
Yeah.
So Sally's like, all right, we got to do something here because nobody is listening to me. I have to stop this. So she goes and she finds one of my favorite things, fog juice. I
Hmm.
love it because the stuff you buy for a fog machine is called fog juice.
Yep. And it's just so on the nose, you know exactly what you're getting, and it works.
Yep. Yep. So we get their take on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer here.
Yep.
Also, this is when she's going for the fog juice, we get back to Dr. F, and he is working on animating his bride by giving her
Yeah.
half of his brain. He's like, we'll have conversations worth having because he's so bitter about how Sally turned out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good.
So good.
Um, so, I guess we get Oogie Boogie's son here before
Yeah.
Jack actually takes off.
Yeah. Before Jack
Um,
takes off, you get Oogie Boogie's song, which is my favorite, and what's his name? Yeah, Ken Page, who's a big Broadway actor. He, clearly, he has an amazing voice. This guy had so much fun with Oogie Boogie. Like every
mhm,
single line is perfectly said, and he's just having the most fun time of his life.
What are you gonna do? I'm gonna do the best I can.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you get like the
Um,
jazzy, the gambling. It's like it's very like
mhm.
speakeasy New Orleans style.
Yeah, I was feeling like riverboat gambling vibes, so
Yeah.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love how it's all like like black light effects in his lair
Yeah.
as well. And all the bats and everything and the
All this, yeah.
skeletons that are basically the backup singers, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
It's so good.
So then we cut back to the town square where the mayor is basically giving a speech to kick off their Christmas, and the fog starts rolling in, and he's having some devastated the souls of the
Yep.
living, and oh no, it's fog as thick as jelly
Jelly
brains.
brains. Yeah. Yep. Jelly brains. And then the they were saying, "Oh, we got to cancel Christmas," and the corpse kid is like, "No more
Yeah,
Christmas."
there goes Christmas. And it's everybody in the background just goes, "Aw," because we've
Yeah.
upset the corpse child.
Yep.
And then Zero gets his Rudolph moment here.
Mhm.
Because of course his nose is a tiny glowing jack-o'-lantern, because why
Yeah.
wouldn't it be, right?
Of
It's
course.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yep, you're the head of the team, Zero, and they just immediately take off. And
Rudolph. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. And
Sally's
then we
like, yeah.
so yeah, we now get the moments of like going actually into Earth, which is still part of the same planet, and it raises the question of not raises the question, but it shows that Earth knows that these creatures and like Santa Claus actually exist in real life. Especially, we'll get to it later on, but when like we're getting the
Yeah.
news reports and the police reports,
Yeah, it's almost like these are little pocket dimensions that just have easy access to Earth or
yeah,
something like that. But we get
yeah,
Sally's son here, which is kind
hmm
of her take on Jack's lament, sort of.
Yeah.
just how life kind of sucks, and I'm never going to end up with the guy that I like. And,
Yeah. He's
it's
going down a path that I've tried to warn him about, but he's not listening.
yeah, it's very, very sad. Um, yeah, I, I just, there's
Catherine
nothing more to say about it,
and
but
Catherine O'Hara actually singing it. So
yeah, yeah, I'm curious why Danny Elfman didn't do the speaking voice of Jack.
I think he wasn't a good enough actor to portray a full movie, like a full main character.
And I know Chris Sarandon was just close enough in the sounding of his voice
Yeah.
in comparison, so I know that's how they ultimately
Yeah.
cast him. But yeah, okay, well that sounds
I
fair
mean,
then.
yeah.
Um, and then we cut back to Jack with his very first crash landing, and I love the plastic angel that falls off the roof and is hung outside the kid's window. It's a
Yep.
great touch. I love all those old school plastic Christmas decorations like that. They are, very, very 1950s, 1960s, which of course is Tim Burton's wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that very first kid, um, there's something so perfect about the child's POV shot as he runs down the stairs, because
Hmm.
it's so fast and smooth compared to a lot of the stop motion, because of course it's not stop motion.
It's
But
just a straight camera shot. Yeah.
mhm. But I love the perspective, how low it is to the ground, all that. It's very much a child. And oh, Santa's scary this year.
Yeah.
Yep, I love
He's
the
not
little
big. He's not jolly.
tap on the nose with the bony finger, and I'm surprised this kid's not messing himself at this point. Um, what did Santa bring you? And holds
The
up the severed head.
and
And
it's very Beetlejuice is what it's like based off of. It's like when Beetlejuice gets his head shrunk.
yeah, very much looks like the shrunken head. Yes.
Yeah.
And we basically get a montage of horrible stuff being delivered to very nice people and much screaming. Um,
Yes. I'll say because I've been to Disneyland many times during Night Before Christmas, taking over the Haunted Mansion.
oh,
They
nice.
use the cat. The cat toy is
Hmm.
used most often because it looks kind of like Mickey Mouse, like a Tim Burtonized version of Mickey Mouse.
That's fair.
So they use that in the Haunted Mansion ride over and over again.
Very fair. Um, and one of my favorites is the little kid screaming with his hair standing straight up as the snake is eating the Christmas tree. Just
Yeah.
standing stock still, screaming at it with this piercing scream. But
Yeah.
yes, we get the police reports of, or the news report rather, of some imposter mocking and mangling the holiday.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really just shows that that the news is actually reporting this. The police are actually taking reports, and it just shows that Santa Claus is real in this world, and they know he's real in this world. It's not the parents just doing the shopping, which they'll probably get them presents also, but it is a real thing. So that means that every one of these holidays are actually real creatures that Earth knows about, all of them. They
Hmm.
did the holidays themselves did not know about each other.
Yep. And in that regard, it feels extra, extra Disney. But
Yeah.
Disney was so concerned about releasing this thing under their own banner that they put it out under Touchstone originally,
Hmm.
which was all their PG and PG-13 stuff back in the day. But yeah, eventually it got rebranded and whatever. But
Yeah.
because, yeah, money. Um,
Exactly. They're making money off of it. All the merchandise also. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and 30 years of merchandise of this film has done them quite well, particularly
Yeah.
for them and Hot Topic. Um,
Hmm. Yep.
so, so we're back to Jack and Zero flying through the sky, and this is where the military is being spun up, and they've got their searchlights, and they're like, "Oh, they're thanking us for doing such a good job." Yeah. Um,
Oh no, they almost hit us. Watch out.
yeah. We have anti-aircraft batteries firing at him, and he thinks they're
Hmm.
fireworks or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're cutting from this back to Sally trying to rescue Santa from Oogie, and she's basically
Yeah.
tearing herself apart to do so. It is perfect.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Yeah. Enticing Oogie Boogie with her leg. And he's just like, ooh, okay, let's go. And
Yeah,
again,
because
Ken Page
he's
just having this chew in the scenery, loving
yep,
it.
he's horny as fuck, and
Yep.
yeah, tickling her foot and everything. And
Yeah.
meanwhile,
And the little hands.
yep, yep, I love how they're independent from her body, sliding down the rope, and
Yeah.
they cover up his mouth and point upwards, and it's yeah,
It's so
um,
good. It's so
and they
creative and it's
oh
not
god,
scary to kids. Like it's a scary thing having body parts off, but they include like the leaves and stuff that are stuffed inside her. So it's not
mm-hmm.
like super scary.
Yep, yep, just creepy enough.
Yeah.
And they almost make it out, but oh,
Hmm.
then you know, Boogie Boogie finds out that the leg isn't attached to anything, and he's
Yeah.
pissed. He basically sucks them all back down into his keep. And we cut back to Jack and Zero, and one of the shells takes the head off of a reindeer, and he finally
Hmm.
realizes they're trying to hit us. And they try to get out of there, but they don't quite make it, and
No.
they're blown out of the sky.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And Mayor
everybody's quite
instantly.
sad.
Yeah, and the mayor instantly the mayor's like, he's dead. He's
Yep.
gone. Got everybody. Got to tell everybody. The mayor
Mm-hmm.
is so worthless as a character. I mean, I love the mayor. He's
Yeah,
hilarious.
but he has that
But like,
wonderful line earlier in the film about how, he can't make decisions. He's only an elected official.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
and just goes
it's
to showcase that even more. It's like, ah, Jack's dead. We're all screwed. Let's pack up Halloween Town. We're done.
yeah. We shift back to the crash site, which of course is in a cemetery because
Yeah,
why wouldn't it be? And
yeah,
Jack is all splayed out in this angel statue, and we cut into poor Jack. A song about basically someone with their head so far up their own ass that they can finally see that there's something wrong.
mm-hmm.
I don't know that that actually works physically, but and
You can try.
it's great because he's finally catching on what he's done.
Yeah,
Uh,
realizing what happened, realizing what Sally was saying. And there's a great
mm-hmm.
animation moment here where Zero brings his jaw back to him and he puts his jaw
Yep.
back on his head. And I love the way it just kind of molds back in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Looks great.
Yeah.
And I love dancing around the cemetery, the old dance move
Yep.
of hopping up on a bench or a chair and letting it fall back. And he actually does it
Very Gene
twice, although
Kelly.
one's yeah, exactly. But it's off camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, poor Jack's a good son. And then we cut back to Oogie Boogie, where Boogie's having his Bond villain moment because he's got the crazy contraption and
Yep.
basically taunting them before killing them. Um,
Throwing snake
and
eyes first and then just going
bam.
11.
Yep. Yeah, I also love that first roll of seven where he's cranking the platform up to drop them
Yeah.
into the soup, and 5, 6, 7, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's so good. Again,
yeah.
just the actor just loving it.
Oh,
Loving it.
like you said, absolutely chewing the scenery there, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's good stuff. And then Jack finally, makes his way there. I love how there's a doorway back to Halloween Town through
Hmm.
a crypt in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Perfect. Couldn't ask for
Yeah.
better.
That's all the information you need.
Yes, absolutely. So Jack's back, and Oogie Boogie kind of feigns terror at first. And nope, no, this is my opportunity to take you out because I've always wanted to rule Halloween Town.
Hmm.
And we get, all the gambling stuff that turns into giant death traps.
Yeah,
And
the king cards with their swords, the guys
mm-hmm,
the shot with the pistols. Yeah,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Oogie gets a loose thread, and Jack manages to catch it and tells him off and basically throws the thread into the little spinning mechanism, and it rips the
hmm
burlap sack off. And my bugs. And one of my favorite bits of this, as they're all falling apart, you
Hmm.
cut to clearly somebody just sprinkling a bunch of rubber bugs into the
Yeah.
goop, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead
Because
of it
it's
being
also very
animated.
smooth and yeah,
Hmm.
it's so good.
Yeah. And we
One
go ahead. I'm sorry.
one last bug, like yeah, scampers by, and Santa Claus just steps on him.
Hmm. And
Just sick of all this.
yeah. Oh God, he is done. And this is where he tells off Jack.
Hmm.
And yeah, what was it like a bumpy sleigh ride, Jack?
Yeah.
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 And he snatches his hat back from him and he's like, of
Hmm.
course there's still time to fix Christmas. I'm Santa Claus. And he even does the little touch of the nose,
Yeah.
which, definitely some Santa lore there, but nice touch. And he rises up through the pipe that he came down and goes off to fix Christmas. And we get
Yeah.
Jack and Sally being absolutely stupid for each other here before the mayor and Lock, Shock, and Barrel find them, and
Hmm.
um, and then we get Santa saving the day,
Yeah. Just
replacing
a
all
nice
the
little montage.
we're replacing all the
Miss
horrible
everything.
gifts with good ones. The severed head is replaced with a puppy, which is just great because who doesn't want a puppy for Christmas?
Exactly.
And Santa gifts Halloween Town with snow for the very first time.
Yeah. And you
You
get
know,
the what's this? The this is Halloween mashup.
mm-hmm.
And the vampires are playing hockey with a pumpkin.
Yep.
It was originally supposed to be Tim Burton's head, but Disney was like, That's a bit too much."
Fair. That's fair. We have Dr. Finkelstein finding happiness with his new bride.
Hmm.
They look perfect for each other, and so do Sally and Jack because she wanders off through all this happiness to, go take a seat on the odd hill in the cemetery. And Jack comes up behind her and they sing, and we get some moonlight smooches and Zero flying off into the stars, and then credits. But if
Yeah.
you don't listen to the score for the rest of the credits, you're a cop because it's such a great montage of everything. And you get the jazz trio coming back to play some of the songs.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun, man.
Very nice. And yeah, on the soundtrack, for both of them actually, soundtrack and the Nightmare Revisited soundtrack has Patrick Stewart doing an epilogue. Nightmare Revisited has Danny Elfman do the same epilogue, basically just saying that now all the holidays know of each other, and that Santa Claus and Jack meet up again. And Santa Claus is like, "Would you do it again?" And Jack's just going, "Wouldn't you?"
Yeah.
And just very nice little button of like they now know each other. And I
Hmm.
also like to think that this renewed, I mean, in Jack, poor Jack, he says that he's got ideas now. He's gonna terrify kids with this memory of a terrible Christmas, but on Halloween, next Halloween. Like you just know there's gonna be more shrunken heads, more wreaths that are grabbing old people,
Hmm.
all that fun stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, it's great. I'm always just a little sad that that part was cut from the film, but
Yeah,
this is a fun epilogue. Why the hell
yeah,
not? But
yeah,
also I get it. It's a kids movie. You don't want it to go on longer than it absolutely has to, and because
yeah.
the attention spans are about this big. But yeah.
Very true.
Um, Final thoughts or any other interesting thoughts on Nightmare Before Christmas?
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies consistently throughout the years, and I think it really is just like one of those movies that you have to show kids at some point because they'll see that there's more than just everything's perfect like Disney movies,
Mm-hmm.
which are also great. Love really Disney movies, but there's also just very weird stuff, and it's cool to see that as a kid. Like it sparks their imagination, and
Yeah,
it's not like yeah.
I think it hit this point kind of after you had in the late 70s, early 80s, a ton of
Mhm.
Disney films that, if you look at them through today's lens, you would think that they would be absolutely terrifying for kids.
Hmm.
Like Watcher in the Woods, Escape from Witch Mountain,
Oh
that Ray
yeah,
Bradbury story, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is just criminally unable to be found anywhere. I think you can buy a DVD off of Amazon and that's it.
right.
I love it because you have Jonathan Pryce as Mr. Dark and he's perfect. But you had all those, and then a bit of a renaissance over the past 20 years. You had films like Coraline that you brought up, and Paranorman, and all these other fun, spooky kids films that,
Yeah,
again, just serve as, yeah, fun introductions to spooky stuff for kids. You know,
yeah,
you know, just in some ways, kind of telling kids, hey, guess what? It's not that bad to be a little scared, to be a little spooked.
yeah.
It can be fun.
And guess
So,
what? You can make the scares if you want.
mhm,
That's what this whole town did. They make scares. Why don't
yeah,
why don't you make it?
yep, absolutely. I love how creative this whole film is, and just the message of the film of creativity to a large degree. It's cool,
Yeah.
man. It's
Yeah,
good.
it's good, and I definitely recommend watching it yearly. It's a nice little pick me up for the
Oh yeah,
holidays.
yeah. There's very little to ultimately be sad about by the time the film is done. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's yeah, it's a good pick up, like you said. Any final thoughts on the film?
I think I've said everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a short film, and for something that's ultimately, a little bit more tied up in the songs, I think it's a little bit more difficult to get into a lot of drawn out conversation. Um
yeah,
but yeah, I kind of expected as much. But yeah, hey,
it's definitely focused on the songs. Front and center is the
yep.
songs, and that's why you wanna
Oh,
watch it 'cause
yeah.
there's great songs.
Yeah, and like you said, it's very much a film that smacks of songs being written first and a film being basically constructed around it, and that's not a
Yeah,
bad thing because
yeah.
clearly when it works, it works. Lee, one more time, where can people find you?
You can find me at Lee Polero on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere, and, yeah.
Cool, 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 cool. Well, this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and all that. I'll be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spoopy, everyone.